Beloved Saints, today's 5-minute message of redemptive history is about Jesse, Part 1, from the third book of Redemptive History series, The Unquenchable Lamp of the Covenant. When we look in the genealogy of Jesus Christ in Matthew chapter 1, the 13th figure to appear in this genealogy is Jesse, after Obed. Matthew chapter 1 verses 5 to 6 says, Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. Today in part 1, let us examine how Jesse was the closest observer of all the events leading up to David's enthronement. First, Jesse received the notice from King Saul's messenger that his son David would become Saul's servant. This had come about because an evil spirit terrorized Saul, and his servants were seeking a man who was a skilled harpist. And so David was recommended to be this harpist. After seeing David and having great confidence in him, Saul made him his armor bearer and sent a message to Jesse saying, Let David now stand before me, for he has found favor in my sight. Prior to this, Jesse considered David to be insignificant among all of his sons, and that he was just a shepherd and his youngest son. But from this message from King Saul, Jesse saw David in a new light. Second, Jesse heard that David, who he sent on an errand, killed Goliath the giant Philistine, and he was to now live in the palace. At that time, Israel was at war with Philistines. Jesse's 3 grown sons, Eliab, Abinadab, and Shammah, were out in the battlefield. Jesse sent David on an errand to look into the welfare of his brothers who were in the battle with the Philistines. When David arrived at the valley of Elah, he heard Goliath, the giant Philistine, taunting the army of the living God. So he bravely approached Goliath in the name of God of the armies of Israel. The stone that David slung struck the forehead of the fully armed giant Goliath, and he fell at once. Then David cut off his head with Goliath's sword. This is in 1 Samuel chapter 17. From then on, King Saul had David live in the palace and did not let him return to his father's house. From this incident, Jesse observed David's sudden rise of fame and reputation. Third, Jesse stayed with David during the years of his life of refuge. After David killed Goliath, the woman sang a song saying, Saul has slain his thousands and David his 10,000s. When King Saul heard this, he became very angry, and it displeased him greatly. From then on, Saul tried to kill David. And David lived 10 years of his life escaping from King Saul. When David escaped to the cave of Adullam at the beginning of his flight of refuge, Jesse went down there to him. And from then on, Jesse accompanied David during his life of refuge. He witnessed that God was with David, protecting his life in every perilous moment as King Saul sent out his army to kill David. Finally, after about 10 years of a weary and tearful life of refuge, Jesse saw David enthroned as the king of the unified kingdom of Israel. Everyone, when the prophet Samuel came to his house to select one among his sons to become king years before, Jesse did not even consider David. He must have been very startled and probably could not believe what was happening when he watched the prophet Samuel anointing David, because he considered David to be least qualified to be king. However, having witnessed the course of David's life, Jesse probably realized that God is indeed the sovereign ruler whose providence is over the entire history of mankind, and that every word he speaks is fulfilled. Jesse learned that God really lives, like the meaning of his name, and that his word is always living and active, being fulfilled as he has spoken, even when men neglect, misunderstand, and doubt him. Beloved saints, just as Jesse experienced how God really lives by observing the process of how David became king, let us believe that our living God will lead us down good paths as he intervenes in our lives of faith. Today, let us personally experience how our God truly lives, and let us be victorious in his word. I bless in the name of the Lord.